Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. Another logistical thriller in Belarus. More than 1,000 Lithuanian trucks suddenly found themselves trapped after Lukashenko's regime decided not to let them leave the country for humanitarian reasons. The drivers were graciously allowed to return home, but the vehicles themselves were not. The vehicles are now temporarily parked near the Kotlovka border crossing in Belarus. Earlier on, Lithuania closed several border crossings due to provocations from the Belarusian regime. You see, in recent weeks, suspicious weather balloons with the scent of contraband about them flew into the sky from time to time. Now, the response from Minsk was not long in coming. Now Lukashenko has decided to take revenge on the Lithuanian cross-border transport industry. You don't want our happy hybrid warfare balloons? You'll get a compulsory parking lot for 1,100 trucks. And of course, in classic disinformation fashion, the Belarusian state news agency, Belta, is conveniently silent as to why the trucks are there or why Lithuania had to close the border in the first place, focusing mostly on comments from angry drivers. Some of them say they may even take to the streets of Lithuania in protest. Shouldn't they take it up with Lukashenko instead? Oh wait, protesting in Belarus. Yeah, we know how that would end, don't we? The Belarusian Foreign Ministry says it's acting solely on humanitarian grounds, like, we'll let the drivers go, but the trucks will stay, because we will temporarily transfer them to special parking lots. And most importantly, they warned, Belarus reserves the right to apply all legal measures to the vehicles. That, Lukashenko himself later clarified, is up to and including the confiscation of trucks, unless Lithuania pays a parking fee or opens up the border, obviously. In other words, it's a classic case of goods taken for ransom. Pay up or else. And in addition to extortionist practices, Lukashenko also blamed Lithuania for waging a hybrid war against him. Classy, given how hybrid war has been the unquestioned domain of the Belarusian dictator since he started pushing migrants to storm the European Union's borders. But what else did you expect? The guy evidently set his navigation systems for confrontation, and the results are not pretty. This story is yet another example of how Lukashenko's regime is trying to play the role of a great geopolitician with nothing but a border barrier and a car park at his disposal. Seems the boundary between a great leader and a common extortionist is a flexible one. But then, if you're a dictator with a struggling economy and an impatient benefactor at the Kremlin waiting for results, you choose chaos over being, a decent neighbor and seize somebody else's trucks to make your point. Okay, here is the big one. Imagine Russia wanting to do their own version of Top Gun, but lacking the money and the star factor of Tom Cruise. I guess Steven Seagal would be a poor substitute. So, what do? They make their script public and pretend it's a real story. This time, the FSB solemnly declared that it had foiled a special operation by Ukraine and the United Kingdom to organize a provocation in Romania. According to the script writers, the Ukrainians allegedly planned to steal a Russian MiG-31 armed with a Kinjal missile in order to strike a NATO base in Konstanta.
Вы являетесь штурманом МиГ-31. Расскажите, что произошло?
В этом году на мою электронную почту поступило сообщение, в котором неизвестное лицо предложило осуществить угон военного самолета. В случае успешного угона самолета мне предлагалась сумма в $1 миллион США.
Spreading false accusations like these is a typical tactic used by Russian security services Previously, the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service and its head, Sergei Narishkin, repeatedly spread sensational revelations that Ukraine, together with the United Kingdom, was preparing bloody provocations in the Baltic Sea, Poland and other NATO countries. But after many failures and a crisis of confidence in the organization, similar lies began to be voiced by the FSB, headed by another elderly long-time associate of Putin, Alexander Bortnikov. The details of the alleged plot will inevitably raise a few eyebrows. The Russians say Ukrainian intelligence tried to bribe their own fighter pilots with an offer of $3 million to make them defect to the West. In and out of itself, not an utterly outlandish concept. A Russian pilot actually did that in 2023, flying a military helicopter out of Russia. A year later, he was found dead, by the way, presumably assassinated by Moscow. Hardly confidence-inspiring, but let's move on. Some of the details of the present case are a bit vague. News agencies report that a Russian military pilot said he was to fly the MiG into NATO airspace, where it would have been shot down by air defenses to force a major crisis. Okay, so this would have been a suicide mission? Is this how you bribe a potential defector with a promise of a burial plot in the West? Unless, of course, they would be able to coordinate the interception so perfectly as to safely eject from the aircraft mere seconds before impact. Yeah, Russian Top Gun, without a doubt. Also, the pilot claims the Ukrainians proposed this daring plan by sending him an email. So, you open your inbox, and there is a message from Secret Agent 007 at ua.gov, subject, "Defector is wanted." And they also say Bellingcat, a network of investigative journalists, was involved because surely journos moonlighting as government agents or spies in the West is just the same as in Russia, because in Russia they sometimes do that, right? Plot holes, man, plot holes. Seems the FSB have been hiring people from Mosfilm to fill the recent vacancies. Can't find any other explanation there. Speaking of Russian propaganda movies, for several weeks now, a veritable tearjerker has been circulating online about a 23-year-old Ukrainian man complaining that he doesn't want to go to the front line. The video has sparked a flurry of emotions on social media, especially on X, formerly known as Twitter, thousands of comments, hundreds of reposts, and even expert discussions about the morality of war. But here is a small detail. No such guy has ever existed. This is the work of artificial intelligence, so skillfully generated that even experienced users did not immediately notice the fake.
Меня мобилизовало, я еду в часов, Яр. Мама, не хочу умирать. Мне всего 23, помогите, пожалуйста.
The authors of this masterpiece are, as always, unknown, but the Kremlin's fingerprints can be discerned eventually when you look closer. Russian propaganda channels are spreading videos with captions such as "Ukrainians are tired of war" or "The time for peace talks has come." Yeah, tell that to Vladimir Putin, by the way. Of course, they do not say that the main actor here is a neural network that does not even have a passport, and that the prompt was written by the same unit that previously created the story of the infamous NATO biolabs, presumably. Waiting for somebody to feed this one to an AI, by the way. Expect a blockbuster to make even Michael Bay green with envy. Jokes aside, though, this is a real problem. In an era of post-truth, having AI making leaps and bounds in terms of realism will make it even more difficult to tell fact from fiction. No longer are AI-generated characters blessed with extra digits so that everybody can immediately tell that they're fake. Of course, the fact that no real Ukrainians can be found to follow Moscow's script and to tell things like that, and the Kremlin has to resort to AI slop instead, is a good thing. But still, a fake video like this will often make the rounds for days before it is debunked. People don't watch TikTok with a bunch of fact-checkers at their side. They just gobble it up and move on, their attention span measured in seconds. This means damage is already done by the time the video is exposed as a fake. So next time you see a sad Ukrainian from TikTok talking about peace at any price, Don't rush to wipe away your tears. First, check if the guy is even blinking. Should the realization that such fakes will only get more convincing and more sophisticated bring tears to your eyes, though? Maybe. And with this, we're concluding this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Bye for now.